Whoops, wrong starting page. That's the right starting page. And our nice weather continues, but there are changes looming as we go through the weekend and into next week. And we'll be talking about that. There's a winter storm that's continuing in the southwestern part of the United States. And we also have some winter weather up in the northern plains. This will be covered in extensive detail, along with the weekend and the long range, on tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system and join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. Yes. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast. And if you use the coupon code WINTER2324, you will get
10% off.
Okay. I'm playing catch up here, folks, because I got a new microphone and hopefully everything's working, which will be nice. So let me just reverse us because I always like to be on the left side and like you to be on the right side. Okay, good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. I hope you were around last night for Lee Goldberg. Joe, I really had a great time last night.
Yeah, so did I. I think a lot of the people on the chat board enjoyed seeing Lee and asking questions and getting his idea of coming up next week and overall how things run over at ABC 7.
Yeah, and it was good conversation. It was good fun, and hopefully we'll have him back again sometime down the road. In the meantime, uh, Joe Rayo, can you just play with your audio a little bit and turn it up again?
Turn my audio and
Yeah.
play with it or turn it up.
Turn it up.
Turn it up.
Yes.
This sound.
Well, that's
One, two, three, four, five.
I say your audio sounds muffled. All right, I'm going to do something on my end here. Sorry, folks. This is how it works around here. Um,
Hello, everybody. Do I sound muffled? Do I have to miticize myself?
yeah, this is you're cutting out. All right, this is probably my doing. So you know what? This experiment didn't work well. So why don't we go back? Let me go back to what I usually do.
Is my microphone working? The executive producer is asking. Yes. Sounds like I'm in a barrel.
All right, hang on. Everybody, calm down. Just a second. Um, just a moment, please. I have to fix things on my end. All right, everybody, just be patient. This is one of those. Just be patient, please. Uh, okay. So that's set. Joe, can you speak, please?
Sure, I can speak.
All right, hold on. Thank you. All right, so that's that, and I got to do one more thing. Oh, this is why I was not meant to do technical things. Uh,
The tin can and the long string, please.
yes, no, you're okay now. You should be all right. Talk to me.
Talk to you. I'll talk to you. Dennis Cassia says I'll give you a can and you can go as Billy the Goat. Um, yeah. And
All right,
Bobby,
I'm
back.
getting audio. I'm getting audio now from you.
Good. All right. I don't understand. I
Nope,
didn't
they're
hardly.
saying it's better. Okay, good. All
Okay.
right. This is what happens. I got a new microphone because I wanted to sound good or sound better. Okay. Uh, and now I got to use the headset so I can hear you.
Oh, that's the way it goes, Joe.
Yeah, I guess
That's
so.
the modern day of technology. I got to tell you something. I'll say this forthright. We didn't know how good we had it in the 60s and 70s because the new technology that we have today, I think, was designed to make old timers like you and me suffer. You know,
Well,
no buttons anymore. You have to touch the screen and you have to touch it just right because if you don't touch it just right, then things are going to go awry. I'm just so annoyed with the whole thing, the whole world that we're living in.
well, that's just the way it is. I mean, so we want to have good audio so we have a good show. David Fuller, thank you for hitting super chat tonight. So everybody's all skeptical about the models, and I guess there's 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 a fair amount of reason for it. But I have been guarded, Joe. I don't know how much you looked at today. I've been guarded
I
at the
spent
out at the
I,
outlook for next week, and I'm kind of I'm wavering now
I
after
spent the
today's
afternoon
runs.
I spent the afternoon with my new grandson, so I really didn't look too carefully. And quite frankly, I don't really care because, as I'm going to continue to say, the mandate is if you go beyond 72 to 84 hours, you're not going to know much of anything. The models just keep going wavering back and forth. They're not all on the same page. One moment you look and there's a big snowstorm for next week. The next minute you see it's rain, but it may change to snow as it turns colder. And I'm tired of this. I'm just gonna say we'll have a better handle on this situation, which is Monday night, Tuesday. We'll wait until probably either tomorrow or for Saturday to get a more definitive look as to what's going to happen.
Well, there you have it, folks. Joe has it all figured out. I don't know what else to tell you.
Some people
All
like
right.
to they like to hear when I rant. Well, I just ranted.
All right. Well, here we are on a Thursday night. We've got a couple of days off, and after tonight, we're going to be back on Sunday at 7:35 p.m. Uh, Joe and Joe show is on Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m. Those of you who are on the chat board, welcome tonight. Those of you lurking in the background, welcome to you tonight. And we love it when we get to 100 likes. So be sure to hit the like button if you like the show, and subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss it. So you keep your notifications turned on, so you will always be here when we're on. Meanwhile, we've got another nice day today. Um, I had a lot of clouds here today, but still managed to get up well into the 50s to near 60, which was nice. And now just kind of waiting for the weekend. I, I'm kind of torn about Saturday. How much cloud cover is there going to be? How much sun is there going to be? And how, the shower activity at the possible later in the day or in the evening, which should be scattered in nature. I mean, is there going to be enough sun to take temperatures up well up into the 50s or maybe near 60? Anyone's guess, I suppose.
In regard to, I mean, like Lee, for example, Lee Goldberg, for the last couple of days, was teasing everybody by saying that we could very well, tie or break a record on Saturday. And tonight, he kind of backpedaled by saying that, well, it looks like now there's going to be more cloud cover and a better chance of showers. So it looks like we're not going to go tying or breaking any records on Saturday. I said, well, that's the way it goes. I mean, when you start making forecasts of records or possible records more than 3 days in advance, that's what happens sometimes. These models, they just change as they get closer to the actual event. So that's why I'm saying with this thing coming on Monday night, Tuesday, you could speculate. You could say, well, maybe we might see this, maybe we might see that. It might be snow, or it might be rain changing to sun. Can you wait? Can you wait till tomorrow or Saturday and get till we get a better handle? Because it's I said, Joe, sometimes you think now in the 24th year, the 23rd year actually, because the 21st century doesn't begin until 2001, but you would think that this far into the 21st century we would have the technology and weather models that would be able to give us a better handle. I think they've actually gotten worse now over the last several years. And
Well,
look what's happening with the European. They're getting rid of the European operational because they've been putting so much emphasis on the ensembles of the European,
right.
and what used to be a really spot on, excellent model, at least going back, let's say, to Hurricane Sandy back in 2012, and I think the tinkering and the tweaking and the changing and trying to make it a little bit better and blah, 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 has just turned the European model into just another model that flips and flops and slides. every which way.
Right. Well, in the meantime, it's our job to just kind of put some context into all of this. No one's going to get a definitive answer at this point, but there are a few things that are going on, I think, and 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 in terms of the upper air, it's evolving and changing. And from what I saw today, I think I think you have to at least acknowledge that it's no longer a simple matter of just something going north and talking about snow for maybe places north of Route 84, but you got to start thinking about the fact that, well, maybe it's not going to be doing exactly that, that maybe this is going to have a bit more of a suppressed look to it. One of the things we were been talking about was the fact that, um, the thing you have to look for is that if it doesn't, if there's no northern shortwave that comes down in phases with this, and you have a vigorous southern stream system, that is what's going to be required because you don't have a really good source of cold air. But on the other hand, if you do have a really vigorous upper air system in that southern stream that sort of moves along, somebody along and north and west of that upper low track is going to wind up with accumulating snows. And I think that's what the models are kind of trying to point to today. That it's not going to be a northern phase system that goes more to our west or to our north, but rather that southern stream system is going to move along on its own. So now the question becomes: are the models correct in showing a somewhat dynamic southern feature there, and that it maintains itself as it moves along to the east northeast? So the
And Coin Pig,
European.
yeah, I just want to answer Coin Pig on the chat board. He's seemingly admonishing me for. He said the purpose of the European model isn't to make working forecasts, though, Joe Rayo. Coin Pig, you haven't been watching Joe and Joe long enough. In fact, I went into a whole diatribe about this a few weeks ago, where I wince every time I see on television forecasters, TV weather people who show, and this is what the European says, and this is what the GFS says, but the NAM is saying something different. And look at
Right.
the graph model. No, these models are model guidance models. They are to guide you into making a specific forecast. So you don't look at one forecast and say, oh, well, the European just went for that, and I'm going to have to say that too. No, that's not the situation. The situation is that these models are used to help guide you in making an accurate forecast. And so it goes into playing into what Joe and myself, for example, when we put a snow map up there, it's a consensus of basically all the models and not just one model. And so,
Well,
yeah,
I think he actually is agreeing with you because he says that the purpose of the you're saying, and I agree with you, to just sort of to put up a model with no context is anybody can do that. You just have to look at a map. He's saying it's to carry out scientific and technical research to improve forecast skills. And yeah, he's right. That is what at least the function of the European
right.
model is supposed to be. But
And
the
what I
problem,
was,
but the
and my
problem
diet,
is that
yeah,
no,
go, Joe.
I'm just going to say that the problem is, as you stated, that it becomes it becomes, oh, this is what the European. Let's put a bad picture of the European, and then and say, okay, this is what the European has, and then put up a picture of the GFS for the same time frame and say this is what the GFS has. That doesn't tell okay, so that doesn't really tell. I don't think that tells the viewer very much. Certainly doesn't tell our audience, who's a little bit more weather savvy. I gave the whole. Just before we got onto this point, I gave a description of what was going on in the upper air and what we need to look for. And your guidance is to tell you the use of your models, the use of your guidance is to confirm or deny what I had just explained about that southern stream shortwave and the upper low. But you're right, it gets put on the air, and then they throw the snow maps up on the air, and the snow maps get put up on social media, and then everybody thinks that you're the one who put them up, and then they start screaming at you and they don't verify. But
And
that's
the
why
thing
we're
I'm talking about with the
we're here.
European is, and the thing I'm talking about with the European is that yes, at one time the European was an excellent operational model. Of course, also it had it was based on 50 or 52 ensemble members, and still is more than almost nearly twice as much as, let's say, our own American model. But the thing is that the people who are at the European Center have been in recent years taking some of the memory or some of the power from the operational model and putting it into the ensemble to try to make the ensemble more
Right.
accurate. In the process of doing so, the operational model, which is what everybody or most everybody looks at. I mean, some look at the ensemble, but the operation is what everybody looks at, and it has gone down in accuracy. I mean, there have been some years that I shake my head and I'm saying, so what's going on here with the European? That's all I'm saying is that the European is not as good as it was because that and now they again you mentioned this, Joe, more than once that come next month the European operational model goes bye bye. They're going to put it all into the ensemble model and or models, and I don't know. Every time they try to, the old saying, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. They were going real good the way it was, but then they had to tweak it and change it and everything else. And now look at this. What was once a really great operational meteorological model or guidance model is out. So we have to take a valuable tool out of our toolbox for forecasting and just toss it in the garbage because it's all gone now or will be.
What are you going to do? Uh,
And they're also going to
well,
get rid of the dam, right? That's
yes,
going by.
yeah, the NAM's going bye-bye too. So, well, we'll figure it out somehow.
We'll be
Um,
what we'll be using next year, Joe. We'll be using Fritz and Frida. And my wife, who's German, she knows what I'm talking about. Remember the
I
house
know the house.
and
Yes,
the
the
little
house.
band that comes out when Fritz comes out, it's bad weather, and when Frida comes out, it's good weather. I guarantee you, next year that's what we'll be looking at to make long range forecasts. We'll see did Frida come out today, or is it that's we're in a way that's where we're heading. All the good stuff, all the stuff that really was good for our forecasting, they're just finding reasons to just get rid of it, and I don't know.
Yes, Bela Lugosi's quote: "Stop fixing things. The chief source of problems is solutions." The quote by Eric Sevareid.
Yeah,
That's quite true.
that's right.
That's quite true. All right. Well, we've got not too. We really don't have too much going on today. We do have a full moon coming up, so that's why we have some coastal flood advisories up for parts of coastal and southern New Jersey down into Delaware. But otherwise, it's fairly quiet in the eastern part of the United States. Most of the action this week has been in the west, and it continues to be. We've got a plethora of winter storm warnings up across Arizona, uh, parts of Utah, southern Nevada, winter weather advisories surrounding those. We have avalanche warnings in parts of western Colorado, and also winter storm watches up for portions of northeastern Colorado, and some winter weather advisories across Idaho, northern Idaho, and northeastern Montana, northwestern North Dakota. And that's part of the old California storm from a few days ago that has moved along. And you can see it on the surface map here. We've got low pressure up in northwestern Minnesota, and that's moving northward up into Canada. Meanwhile, this skinny high from New Brunswick southward along the coast and into the southeast has made a little bit of progress eastward. And now we're going to start to see temperatures come up a bit. It was in the 60s today across Kentucky and Ohio and in parts of Indiana. So some of that air is going to try to move into the northeast, but a lot is going to depend, not so much tomorrow, as I'm probably not going to be getting to those levels tomorrow, but Saturday, depending on cloud cover, and again, if there's some showers that come in during the afternoon, and the direction of the wind, is it going to be southwest or is it going to be south? Because if it's south coming in off the ocean, that's going to hold temperatures down a bit as well. And you still have a lot of action here in the western part of the United States with leftover energy in the southwest, and of course, some of that is the new energy that's going to come in to make the storm system for next week. Satellite loop, there's some high clouds moving into the northeast now. and you can see this, getting that subtropical jet setting up again from the Pacific down into the Gulf states, Joe. So the atmosphere seems to be getting priming itself for this next system that's coming down now through the west and eventually will move its way across Texas and into the Gulf states. So the atmosphere is loading up. When you see that subtropical jet, when we've seen that subtropical jet lately, it's been a sign of something uh, of power.
Yes, yes, and the fact is that Joe, and I mentioned this last night with you and Lee, that December January was the wettest December January, or seventh wettest out of the top 10 out of 155 years at Central Park. That certainly reflects the fact that the Southern Jet has certainly been very active this winter season so far, with nearly a foot of rain falling on the tri-state area during December and January. And it remains that active for the second half of winter. And if we can only manage to get some decent cold air outbreaks, which we have seen come few and far between, the few that we have seen have been very intense outbreaks, but still, they've been very few of those. And we don't even need intense cold outbreaks. All we need is some decently cold air to interact with one of these waves of moisture coming up from the southern stream, and bingo, you've got what a lot of the snow lovers out there have been yearning for, a nice snowfall. And it may very well happen, but we still have to get that cold air in here in order for it to happen indeed.
Well, radar's not too busy. In the east, it's fairly quiet. We've got some stuff showing up aloft in parts of Pennsylvania and upstate New York, and also back through Ohio and parts of Indiana. Definitely reaching the ground. Actually, there's a couple of tornado warnings up in southern Wisconsin from this little cluster of cells there. That's a little unusual to be that far north. But again, you saw temperatures push up into the 60s there, and they've got a cold front that's moving eastward with that old storm system, and you see the rotation to an extent centered in middle part of Minnesota. On the northwest side, we've got some snow, and it goes back over into the Dakotas and into Montana. It's been snowing pretty hard in parts of Arizona, especially in and around Flagstaff over the last 24 hours or so, and that's going to continue for a bit. Just going to check SPC, and indeed, they had a marginal risk indicated for northern Illinois, including Chicago, and into southeastern Wisconsin. So that small area is playing out according to plan. No severe weather is forecast for the next 2 days, but Sunday into Monday. I'm Wait a minute, hold on. This thing is going so quickly, I can't see this. Sunday into Monday, we have a 15% risk in the long range in southeast Texas and in southern Louisiana. Now, that's going to be with that next developing storm system. So, some severe weather coming into the mix. Again, it's a vigorous southern stream feature. So, this is certainly an indicator that there is, that this is, I don't want to call it necessarily a powerhouse, but it's a fairly strong shortwave that's going to be moving through in the flow, and that I think we're going to need to have to pay some attention to it. 1.5 to 2.5 inch rain amounts across the south and southeast. WPC now has about a half an inch of liquid indicated up to about New York City and southern New England. And all of this is going to be from that one system for next later Monday night into Tuesday. And as far as snow is concerned, um, this is the probability for at least two for the next 72 hours. Again, it's mostly in the west and also a little bit in the northern plains and northern Minnesota. Nothing going on here in the east. But in the long range on WPC, and this was put out earlier today before the dayside guidance came out. So I'll be curious to see what they do with this tomorrow. They did pull the area of 10 to 30% chance for at least a few inches a little bit further to the south from West Virginia, all of Pennsylvania except the southeast, and then northern New Jersey to just north of New York City, to just north of I-95 in Connecticut, points northward. a fairly large area of at least a few inches, 10 to 30%, and then in the darker greens, at the Catskills, the Poconos, and in the White Mountains of 30 to 50%. So again, I'll be curious to see what they do with this tomorrow because we'll have they're one model cycle behind in this forecast, and the next forecast doesn't come out until midnight.
Well, James Davidson on the chat board answering me about, we need enough cold air to translate the southern stream systems into snow. He says, but Joe Rayo, too much cold air will force these storms too far south, and you're absolutely right. Just a couple of thoughts here regarding this system coming in early next week, Joe. There has been really a clear southward trend with this storm, but there's still lingering uncertainty about just how far south it'll end up. Reflecting again what James Davidson wrote on the chat board, the main ensemble variability is between a slower, more southerly storm or a faster, more northerly storm. So we're just going to have to, again, these are things that are not going to be totally and completely worked out until we get closer. The next day or two, we'll have more data set, more information to go into the data set to generate from the computers what exactly may or may not happen. And that's when we'll be able to say with a bit more certainty or surety how much snow may fall, how much rain there will be at the start, if there is going to be much rain. But until now, it's just simply a matter of looking at what we've been looking at for the last few days and trying our best to try to interpret where these systems are all going to end up.
And on that note, as we look at the upper air, this is for this evening, and there is a closed upper low that's sitting in northern Arizona. There's another one in northern Minnesota. That's the old California storm. And of course, we've got this ridge right along the East Coast. Now, again, to me, it really boils down to um, this vigorous southern stream feature. This first one gets kicked along and out. A second one drops down into the southwest on Saturday, and you see it there, and it cuts off when it goes into Texas. Now, at the same time, take a look at the northern jet. There's a short wave here in this northern part of the jet stream that's running out ahead of this. Okay, and that's going to go by to our north sometime on Monday, but it will also be helping to pull down some low-level cold air. So now, as we move through Monday, you can see that southern stream system still is fairly vigorous. There doesn't seem to be anything in the northern stream to phase with it when it gets to about 80 degrees west. So the key is going to be, does that upper low hold together, and how far south or north does it track? Because oftentimes when you're looking for areas of heavy snow, you're going to look 50 to 150 to 120 miles north and west of the track of that upper low. So if you use this as a literal interpretation, you probably would put an area of heavier snow along the coast. More importantly, though, is the fact that if it remains a cutoff low, a well-developed upper air system, it's going to create dynamic cooling. And that's one thing we're going to have to look for in this, Joe, is that are we going to get a situation where we're going to have, very, very strong vertical motions, lots of dynamic cooling going on, so that the fact that we don't have a lot of cold air may not make a difference. It could be made up, that cold air could easily be made up by a strong upper air feature. And I think that's what the models are implying here, that we could see that happen. And, the runs are sort of vacillating back and forth. I found it interesting today that the European and the GFS matched up very close in terms of the surface low track and position, and also in terms of the upper features. So that'll be something to also look for tomorrow if both models remain consistent.
But you know what, Joe? I think over time, for what we've seen so far, this winter so far has been the winter for the folks who live to the south, across Atlantic City, Philadelphia, and especially Washington, Baltimore. They so far have had a pretty good run of snow, and I'll tell you the way things have been trending, especially with the European now pushing a little bit more south. Who's to say? Maybe
No,
before they'll get it, they'll find themselves another round of snow, and we'll find ourselves sitting out in the bleachers saying, hey, what about us?
certainly not impossible. I'm not gonna deny it. Certainly not impossible. I was just pulling up a quick sounding here. This is actually this is a little south of New York City. Probably try to get something close. I just kind of curious as to what what's being shown. Um, this is near Philadelphia, for example, Philadelphia Trenton, 32, 32 on the sounding, and there's no warm nose or anything like that, so it's all below freezing all the way up. So the soundings are borderline, and I think that's what you're going to see here is the soundings are all going to be borderline. This one I pulled up near central Long Island. It looks like it's 34, 32. So, borderline temperatures, then it becomes a matter of intensity. And you have to see whether you get cold enough for, intensity. That was one other thing I did notice today, Joe, in terms of the GFS. In a couple of these events that we had, and I think maybe this will be a good time to bring up the surface map here of the GFS. But we had a couple of the events that we had in January, if you recall, the model, uh, and not just the GFS, but a few of the models, if you remember that they showed those blotches of heavy snow uh, 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 indicated on the radar,
Yeah.
and it did that again today where it shows that that really here it is that really bright purple right there. And this is this is early Tuesday. This is Tuesday morning. That's not sleet that you see over Allentown, Trenton, Philadelphia, and Wilmington. That's S plus heavy snow, and then it moves northeast from there across New York City and Long Island. Again, that's based on the fact that this model was doing what it was doing in terms of where it put the surface low. Um, so it'll be interesting to see because the last time around it showed this and it actually wound up verifying. So now it's showing it again. It'll be, as I said, we'll see if it turns out. We're not going to know for another 4 days, 4 or 5 days. But just the fact that the model is showing this intensity is pretty interesting to me. But yeah, we got plenty of time to look. No one's gonna, we're not here to put out a forecast of snow amounts 5 days out. It just doesn't happen. So when we come back on Sunday, we'll probably have, if it's still relevant, we'll probably have our first calls and go from there.
I think you're right. What more can we possibly say? But I just love how forecasters they already 4, 5, 6 days in advance are already putting out snow maps. And again, I abhor the 10-day forecast. I really would not even do 7-day anymore. I'd love to do 5, but that's the populace demands 7 and 10. Even though if you, I think it'd be interesting if somebody out there on the chat board were to get one of those marble composition books or just a simple pad or whatever, and just take note or keep a record of how accurate the 8, 9, and 10 is on some of those 10-day forecasts. Really, they're quite. I think they're quite useless. But and here we're trying to make a forecast for something that's what 4 days out.
Yeah.
It's
Well, we just gave it we're giving it context. We've explained how things are happening, how it happened, how it may happen, how it needs to happen if you want to have snow out of this. And there's not much else we can do here. We've done our job.
and something. I just realized something, and this is going to make Renata. Her eyes are going to go sky high when I just mentioned this. And the fact is that we will be on with Joe and Joe as per usual on Sunday at 7:35, correct? Even though
I,
that's
I
Super Bowl Sunday, or
yeah, I thought so. Yeah.
because she is one of the people who has put together the big German American Super Bowl party, which is filled with food
Ah,
and else. And I
well,
just
don't
realized
sh-
that if we have a Joe and Joe on Sunday, it means I'm going to have to depart somewhere about a half an hour into the party.
well, if you need to save your marriage, we can always reschedule.
Well, how about if we try maybe on Sunday, since it's Super Bowl Sunday, maybe instead of having the Sunday evening show, maybe we go back for one Sunday to Coffee with Joe and Joe and do an
And do it in the morning.
11 o'clock show.
Um, all right, I'll say if we do it, if you want to do that, I'm good with it. Why don't we, but instead of 11 o'clock, why don't we do it at noon?
Okay, noontime.
Okay, noontime. So let's do that, folks. Noontime.
See? And
This
she
way,
agreed
this
on the
way,
chat.
I'm okay.
That's a good
Good,
idea. That's a good
good.
idea.
So
And right,
we'll
you are going
we'll
to
do
save my marriage,
we'll,
Joe.
right. We'll do it. We'll do it at noontime. You will still remain happily married, and everybody will be happy. And this way, I could go to I go to the dog park in the morning on Sunday, so I don't have to rush back for 11 o'clock. By the way, speaking of which, um, I got a message from Bill Goodman congratulating me because of the fact that CPC, when they do that long range hazards thing,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, they have my area at a slight risk for heavy snow for somewhere in the long range. I forgot what the time frame was, but they
Okay.
have they have me at a slight risk for heavy snow here in Northeast Georgia and Western North Carolina as well. I think it's not from this first thing. It's from something beyond that. For the weekend of the following weekend. So it's in their long range. I think it's in their 8 to 14 day long range or something.
Mr. Ruben Fairchild asks, "Do you guys ever think you'd like to dress like Lee Goldberg?"
Why?
Ruben Fairchild. We dressed like Lee Goldberg together. Joe and I. We were in television for like over 40 years combined, and we dressed like Lee Goldberg every single day. I mean, I was for 21 years. Can't talk for Joe, but for 21 years, I woke up, put some knock around clothes on for a couple hours, and I went right into the monkey suit, right into the tie and everything else. So we did that quite a bit. We're not on television. We are on YouTube, and it
You're
is a
lucky I wash my clothes. Okay.
you know,
I'm
it,
not doing that. But you know what you're doing right now, Joe? You're ringing the bell.
I'm ringing the bell. I'm ringing the bell. There you go. Ring, 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 ring.
Okay.
I
You
still
have
see I still see 88 likes, but now I have to bow out of
no,
YouTube and
we're
then
at
go back.
we're at 102.
Okay, that's right.
Um, do you have Briller Jeopardy?
Yes, I do. And I'm going to get it up here right now. Hang on for just a brief momento. And we shall see what we shall see on Briller Jeopardy. And it says, "Hi, Joe. On this edition of Briller Jeopardy, what is the average snowfall for each of these cities in the month of February?" And we will start. And again, this is the average snowfall for February. And the first one is Central Park, New York City. What
For
is the average?
February?
That's right.
10.
10. And we ring the bell for Joe. He's off and running. Ding, 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 ding. That's 10. Did we even get a chance, or anybody give a chance to
Well,
anybody out there?
Brandon Kastner said 10.1, and Joe
Yeah.
Lepreski said 10, and William Uber said 10, and
And
Maggie
they,
P said 10. So
yep.
yeah, it's 10.
Okay.
Next,
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. For Philadelphia, I'm gonna say either 8 or 9. I'll say I'll say 8.
Ring that bell again, Joe. Brandon Kastner said 8.
And
Harry
Ari Mack said 8, and Rich Rothmansky said 8, and Craig Carlberg said 8.
Right.
Next,
There you go. Number 3, Portland, Oregon.
oh God, Portland, Oregon. I'm gonna say for Portland 2.
Snake Country, Joe.
So that means it's either 1 or 3.
Right. William Huber says 3.
William Huber says
Someone says
3.
3.
Brandon Grablichov says 1.
Harry
And
Mack says
Ari Mack says 1. So which is it?
Well, take a guess. Want to toss a coin? It's either 1 or 3.
Well, and I said 2, so 3.
Eh,
It's 1.
it's 1.
I always
It's
thought Portland would have gotten more than just an inch, but I guess they don't.
I guess they don't, according to the chairman. How about all right, boss, Rochester. Rochester,
Roch,
Rochester, New York, by the way, not Rochester,
right.
Minnesota.
Um, Rochester, New York. I'll say 23.
Oh my God. Joe, are you cheating? Really?
No, I'm not. I swear to God.
Okay. 23 right on the nose.
Well, you got 3 out of 5 on this the other night. 23. A lot of
Yeah.
guesses, a lot of folks with 22 up there, but it was 23. Brandon Grablichov said 22.7. Okay.
All right, last one of the regular 5, and that would be in the state where on all the license plates they say greatest snow on earth, Salt Lake City, Utah.
Oh, this one I'm not sure of at all. Uh, it's February, mountain
Might they be
17.
might they be like Denver, like maybe
Well,
more.
that's just it. I'm not sure because depending on where you are in the mountains, there's a shadow somewhere, but it's not just one big, mountain. There's gaps in between.
I
I'll say 17.
All right, well that's wrong, but Donald Colgan and Rich Rotmansky both hit it on the nose with 11.
11. Okay, so it was a lower number.
Yeah.
It was good to go lower.
And the
Okay,
bonus,
the
the,
bonus.
the bonus
There's a
city
bonus question.
is, and I learned, the first person to point this city out to me was when I was a young boy watching Eyewitness News Channel 7 in the 60s, because Tex Antoine usually pointed this place out. Caribou, Maine.
Caribou's below normal.
He also used to point out Steamboat Springs, Colorado, but we haven't done
20,
Steam.
27.
27, a little
Yeah.
too high.
All right. Um,
He says 25.
Vincent Croce said 23. William Uber 26.
Well,
Maggie P 20.
Vincent Croce and Rich Motmansky with 23. They are in snake country, but it doesn't really matter because Brandon Glavichov says 22, and that's
And
the
so did Helen Bertona, said
oh,
22.
at 22 as well.
All right. All right, let's call it a night. It was a good week, and we had a lot of fun yesterday. In case you missed it, go on my the library on my YouTube channel and pull up last night's show with Lee Goldberg and enjoy yourself because it was an hour and 20 minutes, lots of fun. Also, you can find it on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. It's all over the place. So enjoy if you missed it, and it's nice to have everybody participate and a lot of folks that watched last night. It was good to have a nice size audience as well.
What are the
Okay.
odds? What are the odds of getting Alan Casper?
Oh, I think it's probably, maybe not 0, but not much above 0.
There's a guy I would love to have on Joe and Joe.
Well, I'll ask him again. I'll ask him, but you know, he's hesitant. He hasn't been on the air for a long, long time now, so he's kind of hesitant about doing it. But
Well,
maybe that he saw last night because he did watch last night's show from start to finish. He watched the whole thing, so
right.
maybe I'll ask him again.
Okay.
We'll see.
Maybe I
Uh,
could
uh,
maybe try to get Joe Whitty, and if Joe Whitty can somehow manage to be
well,
convinced.
you did email him. What was it now? 2.5 years ago, and he still hasn't responded.
Right, exactly.
Okay,
Exactly. And
all
Nick
right.
Gregory, Joseph Lepresti says, "How about Nick Gregory?" And I asked Nick about a year and a half ago, and he said, "I'll have to check with the powers that be at Fox 5. Maybe, just maybe, he will finally, after seeing Lee Goldberg, coming on last night. There's also Addison Green. He hasn't been on in a while. Although,
Yeah.
and no, it's Jim Cantori, Helen,
Um,
not Joe Cantori.
right. Now that Brandon Grablichoff has mentioned a certain person, this is, I think, a good place to mention that the Joe and Joe Weather Show is brought to you by Tempest by Weatherflow. Get the revolutionary Tempest weather system, and you too can join the fastest growing observing weather network on the planet. The link is on the descriptor to this podcast, and you can use the coupon code no, I'm sorry, the coupon code is winter2324. And if you do, you will get
10% off.
And as the
Yes, you,
as the
you,
gas
you
bag floats away in the sky, I think this is a good place to say goodnight.
exactly. All right.
Nighty night.
Good night, folks. Remember, noon on Super Bowl Sunday. Noon.
Noon.
No, Jason Fox. See, it's a good thing I just mentioned this. Jason Fox, see you all on Super Bowl Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Bye. No, Jason, if you're still on, it's noon, not 11
Noon.
o'clock Sunday.
Maggie P, thank you for you guys gonna post some snow pictures on my Facebook page this weekend. Thank you for doing that, so everybody could see what snow looks like in Colorado.
And,
Hopefully, we'll have pictures to reciprocate. Um, and uh, and there you have it.
and thank
So
you to David Fuller for hitting the tip jar twice tonight.
yes, night night.
Nighty night.